In 2020, when Apple debuted the iPhone 12 mini along with the 12 and 12 Pro series, we got a pretty unusual case for the first time ever, and it was actually called the iPhone 12 mini leather sleeve, which I have right over here. And in today's video, we're taking a look at why this case was a failure and why it's no longer being sold by Apple today. And you might be wondering, well, isn't that because the iPhone 12 mini got discontinued? Well, sort of, but there's actually more to this story. We're gonna talk about it in today's video. Let's get right into it. Now, I did want to give a quick shout out to my boy Reese for letting me use his iPhone 12 mini for today's video. These phones are honestly getting more and more rare by the day. It's hard to find one that's brand new. You know, sometimes you can step into a carrier store, maybe like T-Mobile. They might have some old units left over, but it's very hard to find. But yeah, this phone right here is going to be our little test subject for today's video. Now, before we actually get into why this case was a failure, I just want to give you guys a quick little unboxing and see what we actually got in this box. Very Apple-like unboxing experience. The top of this sort of just snaps right off, and then we are greeted with that leather sleeve itself. It does have a pretty subtle smell to it and honestly has this very thin form factor, and I love the fact that there's also a little mini cutout there for the 12 mini camera. Kind of makes this feel like an actual iPhone box, which is pretty cool to see. And of course we do have a little lanyard that attaches to it and kind of turns it into a wristlet. And then the case itself is honestly pretty thin. The 12 mini is supposed to slide right into it, and of course it has this little cutout for the time, which is pretty cool to see. And then I actually just went ahead and, you know, just attached that strap as well. I can't lie, this honestly does look pretty cool, although I think I'd much rather prefer a case where I can actually see the entire screen, but this is a pretty cool concept so far. But yeah, you know, this thing also kind of reminds me of the iPod Touch Loop, just like back in the day. I don't know if you guys remember that. They used to have a little lanyard attached to that as well, as you guys can see. Good times for sure. Now, of course, going into why this case was a failure really starts with the price itself. Believe it or not, this thing retailed for $129. That's like literally a fifth of the cost of the iPhone 12 mini with base specs, which is kind of insane, but don't worry, I didn't actually end up spending that much on this case. In fact, these cases can actually be found on Amazon right now for like $10, but they are being sold by a third-party seller. If you guys want to check it out, I'll have the links down below. I'm not paid or sponsored to say this at all, but this is genuinely a piece of Apple history that I honestly recommend picking up now, because once they're gone, they're probably never going to be coming back again. So yeah, definitely consider picking one of these up for your collection. And apart from the crazy $129 price tag, the appeal of this case likely had a lot of mixed opinions. For one, you know, it did kind of cover up the entire display of the iPhone, except there was a little cutout here for the time itself. It was also convenient for showing things like the battery percentage and even answering phone calls, which is pretty cool to see. So this kind of meant that you didn't have to actually take the phone outside of its sleeve. So it was kind of convenient for sure. However, it's also important to note that this was the first time that Apple ever made a case that looked something like this. If I remember correctly, it was also available for the regular iPhone 12, the 12 Pro, and the 12 Pro Max. But once the iPhone 13 series came out, there was no successor to this case, which likely was due to poor sales, and the fact that these things are literally discounted by 95% off today just shows how overpriced this product really was. You know, I think a fair price for this honestly would have been more like $79, but even that would be pushing it, I feel like. You know, considering this thing can be bought for $8 right now. Granted, I'm not sure if this is 100% authentic. I would say it is, because I don't really think these third-party sellers would go out of their way to try to fake a case like this, and it feels pretty premium, but something to keep in mind. Also, another thing I did want to say is that this case does make the phone feel a lot more chunkier. Keep in mind, this case here is optimized for the 12 mini, and putting it next to my 14 Pro makes it look almost like the same exact size. So I could imagine what the iPhone 12 Pro Max would have looked like when it was in its respective case, and I feel like the phone would just be way too big. But yeah, just something I wanted to throw out there. It's a cool concept, but you know, it definitely makes the phone feel a lot bigger than it is. But you know, that's not to say that this case didn't have any useful features. I mean, it had its pros and cons, but some of the favorite features that I loved about this case were the fact that it had card slots, so you could fit your Apple card into there, another plastic card as well. I put my little Presto into there. Shout out to my Toronto audience. It had the earpiece as well, which is pretty cool to see. And most importantly, this thing was MagSafe compatible. So Apple probably just wanted to show off this new MagSafe technology in a fancy way. So they decided to put it in the form of this little case. But you know what? Apple did make the right move by quietly discontinuing this product. It's not the first time that this has happened. A classic example, see what I did there, would be the iPhone 5C case, which was perforated and was so weird because it was just like so 2013. But the aesthetic was pretty cool. But I have to say, this might very well be the most heavily discounted Apple product ever that you can still buy brand new today. Like I said, if you're an Apple collector, I highly recommend picking one of these up today. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Always fun looking back at a lot of these unusual Apple products. I'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace.